Description of a trip from Fyn Kildalachan to South Fyn. First you drive past the landscape around the divine gravel pit lakes. Park at one of the small parking areas and take a walk down to the water. The lakes have bright colors, wild bird life and beautiful views of the forest and hills. Follow the highway, fastest, to Svendborg or follow the country roads towards Kværndrup and Route 9, the old country road, towards Svendborg. You drive across Svendborg Sound via the Svendborgsund Bridge. Enjoy the view of the sound and the small hilly landscape. Continue towards Troense. Turn left at the first traffic light junction after the bridge. Turn right at the first road. Follow the road and you will come down along the straight. If you do, drive back along the avenue towards Troense. You can also just drive directly from the junction to Troense. Troense is one of Denmark's best preserved skipper towns. There is a tiny maritime museum. I think it is located by the hotel right across from the harbor. When Troense grew up as a skipper's town under Valdemar's castle in the 16th and 17th centuries, the lord of the castle decided that every house in the village should have a fruit tree in the garden, preferably an apple tree. He wanted to beautify the village so that it appeared beautiful from the seaside, and at the same time ensure that people had fruit to eat and drink. But the locals were not enthusiastic. The trees took up space in the small gardens, provided extra work and were placed as an imposed invention from above. Some are said to have even tried to avoid looking after them, almost intentionally letting them die. The lord of the castle therefore made it a requirement that the trees should be looked after and kept alive. If a tree died, the resident had to pay for a new one himself. And in some stories it is even said that it could result in a fine or other punishment if you let your tree die. The point was clear. The entire village should appear green, fertile and presentable, especially when seen from the seaside. Over time, things changed. The apples proved useful as winter supplies and for apple beer, and the village became famous for its flower-filled streets. Today, the apple trees are the very hallmark of Troense, and what was once a forced order has become the pride of the village. You can make a short stop at the harbor in the middle of town and walk a little through the old streets with half-timbered houses, or just look down to the small harbor if Kiss can't walk that far. From Troense, drive along the castle alley to Valdemar's castle. I think you can still drive straight through the castle yard. It's a public road and completely legal. When you've driven through both gates out on the other side, you can park and walk along the path next to the castle to the small wooden jetty. This is where the veteran ship, Helga, docks when it sails from Svendborg. Valdemar's castle was built in the 17th century by Christian IV's son and later given to the naval hero Niels Juel as a reward for his great victory in 1677 in the Scanian War. Yes, back then Denmark could obviously win a war. For centuries it was a stately home for the Juel family, and it is still considered one of Denmark's most beautiful manor houses. In the present day, the two daughters Louise Juel Brockdorff and Caroline Fleming have fought over the castle. The family has had its dramas. Caroline Fleming is very well known from TV and the jet-set life lived there for a while, but moved to England and neglected the castle. But today it is Louise who owns and runs the castle with art exhibitions and events in an attempt to rebuild it. You continue off the road towards the Ambrosius Oak. It is located right next to a house a short distance away and looks like just an ordinary tree, but is one of Denmark's oldest oak trees. If you are interested in old trees, there can't possibly be many who are, then it might be fun to know that the tree is named after the poet Ambrosius Stubb. In the 18th century, he was a tutor for the children at the castle. He is said to have sought peace and inspiration under the oak, or perhaps he just hid for a while from the mansion at the castle. The tree is protected. A good 100 years later, H.C. Andersen came as a guest of the Jewel family at the castle. He described the surroundings in his diaries and, like Ambrosius Stubb, found inspiration in nature and life on Taysinge. Valdemar's castle is a place where several generations of Danish poets have found inspiration for stories and dreams. When you drive from Ambrosius Oak, you come through Noreskov. You should continue straight until you come to the main road. You should not turn right towards Bregning Church, but continue through Noreskov. It is not just a scenic drive through a beautiful forest. When you drive through the forest, you also drive straight through the landscape that has provided nature for a very well-known love story. It is simply the backdrop to one of the most famous love stories between Denmark and Sweden, namely the story of Sixten Sperre and Elvira Madigan. And it is actually true and not just a myth. It was precisely in this area that the Swedish lieutenant Sixten Sperre and the young circus princess Elvira Madigan had gone to hide. He had left his family and his regiment, she had left her circus career, all for love. But they had neither money nor a chance for a future together. In the quiet green depths of the forest they found their last refuge. They took a food basket out, no one knows what happened, but they were found dead in the forest, both killed by shots from Sixten's own gun. Murder and suicide. When you get to the main road, just after the forest has opened up again, there are signs for Londet Church. This is where Elvira and Sixten rest side by side in the cemetery. You can see their gravestones. To see it you have to turn right. That is, towards Svendborg again, and then take the first road on the left. If you drive further, Lundby Grillen is also located just inside on the left, all the way up from the forest in a parking lot. It really is an old-school grill, so if you are into hot dogs and sausage mix, this is where you should have lunch. You are, however, on your way to Rudkobing, and therefore you should actually not turn right when you come out to the main road, but instead turn left towards Rudkobing. You can always see Londet Church / Elvira and Sixten's grave on the way back. The same goes for Lundby Grillen, of course. It is worth it. Sometimes, when on duty in Svendborg, we go by Mekukar there to eat a delicious lunch. Please don't tell anyone, it's not exactly in compliance with hospital policies. Next you drive over the dam to Sio. When the wind is blowing and it is a bit rough here, it is actually beautiful. You can sense how far it must have been to Rudkobing before the dam and the road came. After Sio you have to take the overbridge to Langland. Rudkobing is just to the left of the bridge. Take the first road on the right. Rudkobing, the old market town on Langland. There are small cobblestone streets, colorful houses and cozy squares, a harbor and a station, which remind us that Rudkobing was once a busy trading town. It is no longer so. Langland is characterized by a slowdown and suffers from the same problems as the rest of peripheral Denmark. Langland is part of what is called the rotten banana. Get Suzanne to explain what it is too extensive here. But it is not a positive expression. Still, it is worth noting that the physicist H.C. Arsted was born in Rudkobing. H.C. Arsted is one of Denmark's greatest scientists. In 1820 he discovered electromagnetism, the connection between electricity and magnetism. That discovery changed the entire modern world, and is the basis for technology in everything from electric cars to MRI scanners. It is a bit crazy that it was someone from Rudkobing who made all of that possible. But okay, without him someone else would have probably discovered it, but still. His statue stands in front of the old town hall on Gaystorvet in the center of Rudkobing. You should see it, the square is also very cozy. Don't go into the inn that is located on the square. The last time I was there with Christina and her father, it was a really creepy place. A really funny thing that not many people know is that there are two Arsted statues in Rudkobing. H.C. Arsted had a younger brother, Anders Sando Arsted. He became Denmark's greatest lawyer in the 19th century and actually also Prime Minister. He has been somewhat overlooked, but his statue stands in Orstedsparken in Rudkobing. It's crazy that the small town has given rise to not just one but two great personalities. There is a lot more on Langland, but you can't reach it, so when you are done with Rudkobing, drive back over the bridge towards Svendborg. This is when you can stop at Londet Church, or perhaps better at Lundby Grillen. When you have passed Lundby Grillen, enter the town of Brenninga. The first road on the right is Vivage. It is located right on the border of the town, almost outside. You should not drive down it. The second road on the right is Kirkbakken. You should turn up it because then you will come up to Brenninga Church. It goes up the hill a little and the road turns left. As far as I remember, there is a parking lot on the left side, right opposite the church. Park there. The church is located on a hill and there is actually a nice view from the cemetery itself. But the view is even better if you go up the church tower. The door is open and you are welcome to go in. The stairs are a bit steep, but it is worth the trip. Up in the tower there are markings that show what you can see in the different directions. If you like the trip, you put some money in the church box. At this point in time you are probably quite tired. If you're up for more, you can drive into Svendborg. The easiest way is the first road on the right just after the bridge. Turn right again when you get to the T-junction and left at the next T-junction. Then you'll come right past the hospital, and if you continue, there will be a parking lot on both sides of the road after the traffic lights. Park there if you want and then down to the pedestrian street in Svendborg. You can also drive down to the harbor past the yellow warehouse at the Aerofergens Leby and further out towards Nyborg and back to Kværndrup and the highway. You can also just take the highway to Norre Soby.